I know that, you know, a lot of you want to hear about application of the product programs, more details on the practical side, and a lot of you always want to know deeper knowledge of all the background and the science and all this, and who not to ask if Marcus. And I know, Marcus, you're working on quite a lot of research right now, to which we will benefit greatly in the next few weeks and months, because it will bring us something very good for the future. And I think it's always nice when we think about the fact that what people always want to know is, when you think about the influence our frequency applications have on our human bioenergetic field. And maybe this is something, I know it's a very wide field, a very, very big topic, but maybe you can explain a little bit in detail about this.
Yeah, thank you very much for this question, which actually addresses very important aspects of what is Healy doing. So in the center of all the non-medical programs of Healy is the term bioenergetic field or bioenergetic balance. Because these programs are non-medical, they work on a different level. So, but what is the bioenergetic field? This is a very important question. So if you generally ask the people, how is your bioenergetic state today? I believe most of the people will give an answer. They have an intuition for what is their bioenergetic state, means their life energy. You know, it's kind of a composition of all your different feelings of how you are. It combines the body feeling, but the emotions, like if your body is all right, but your mind is worrying a lot, your emotions, or you're unsatisfied on the spiritual level. So body, mind, soul, the three aspects of ourselves have to be kind of in balance, so that you say, yes, my bioenergetic state is great today, you know. And that's really the core of the whole term of bioenergetic. It's a holistic approach to who we are, because in science we have to differentiate. We have to be very, very analytic and look at a certain aspect. For example, physics, it's mainly looking at the basic atomic and elementary particle level, and then from there expanding to other levels. Biology is looking at a certain aspect in our body. Biochemistry is looking at a certain aspect. Then there's neurobiology, looking at what happens in our brain and in our nervous system. But to really get a holistic idea of the human being, you have to put all this interdisciplinary research together and then combine it with psychology, depth psychology, everything about the unconscious, about the conscious. But that's not enough. You need the spiritual. So to really get a holistic idea of what the human being is, we use the term bioenergetic, because there is a long tradition of this term. For example, I have spent as a monk many years in India, if you calculate it together. And there in India, they have a very clear idea about what is bioenergy. They will say, yes, it's prana, you know, and even these Ayurvedic doctors there and all the yogis and practitioners, they will have an absolute clear understanding and know how to measure it from the pulse and so on. The same is with China. 6 years ago, I started to travel to China very regularly. I visited Taiwan, but then also I went to Shanghai. Amazing experience there, because I was invited by to a big conference as a keynote speaker about modern Chinese medicine. There is a traditional Chinese medicine, and this conference on modern Chinese medicine was actually hosted by the biggest TCM University of China, which is in Shanghai. And I was a keynote speaker in front of 500 medical doctors who are also trained in traditional Chinese medicine. I probably was the only person there who was not really a practitioner or an expert on TCM. I just knew the terminology. So I asked them, do you know what is bioenergy? What is the bioenergetic state? And they all said, yes, we know this. This is the chi. Very clear. And they have a very clear idea about the chi, how it is balanced, yin and yang, the balance. From the Taoism, they have this idea. They know how the chi flows in the body. They understand it's not really a physical energy, but it's a flow of information. So all of them knew what bioenergetic is and had a clear definition. But now the conference was about how to connect it to state-of-the-art science, to modern science, to Western science, because still they have kind of a minority complex with the old cultures, the traditional ways of healing, how to defend it from modern science. This is what this conference was about. So why I was a keynote speaker, actually selected by the president of the Taipei University, who was asked by the organizers of the conference who could do such a keynote speech. So I was invited because my answer to them is that you can only look at the quantum level of the bodily functions, the quantum level of which is even below the bioelectric field. The bioelectric field in the body is very important, and a lot of research is done about this, about cell electricity, about the cell membrane potential, about distribution of potentials in tissues. There's lots of research about this. But I told them that's not enough. You have to look at the holistic quantum effects of the bioelectric field and then see how it connects to the level of bioenergy. And the bioenergy I defined there very clearly. Bioenergy, or the bioenergetic field of a person, is the sum total of its quantum entanglements internal and towards its environments. Means a body consists of so many organs and cells, but they all quantum entangled to form one unit, which is a body. It has to not function as a collection of pieces, but it has to be a coherent wholeness consisting of billions of cells and forming organs and ultimately forming one organism which acts as a whole, controlled by meaning. So the body itself has to be connected to the consciousness, because we know what is the consciousness effect. If we in our consciousness are depressed, in our mind are depressed, we're creating such an impact on the bioelectric level. And there are lots of studies which show that depression actually lowers the electrical potential of the cells. So all these connections are there, but then you have to connect it to the subconscious and to the spiritual aspect. So there's all this internal quantum entanglements which actually make me as a human being. So that this is quantum entanglements. This is not mainstream science, but it's an emerging science, which is represented by many professors of universities, by great physicists like Lee Smolin or Roger Penrose, by biologists, by all kinds of researchers. And it's an emerging science. It's a new science, which may be still a minority, but they think in terms of unity. And they try to understand how this unity from all these parts is actually established on the level of quantum entanglement. So I believe it's absolutely important to understand this level. So this is my definition, my personal definition. And I just wrote a big paper about this, which soon will be published, that the definition of the bioenergetic field, which is also the individual information field, is the sum total of all the internal quantum entanglements plus the quantum entanglements with our environment. Because we are not a human being just by the composition of all our parts, but we are a human being, especially relating to our close people, our relationships. Like I became the ego, which I am in a positive sense, by being taken care of lovingly by my mother. And then at one point, my father passed by, and I recognized there's a second person existing in the world. And then, it's going on expanding with my friends, with all the people I met, with whom I connected still, even those people who died already and who I have associated with along. I'm still connected with them. We are our relationships, and we are defined about the position in the universe and how we relate to everything else. So all this is also quantum entanglements in a generalized way. So we are the sum total of all of this, and this makes our bioenergetic field. Actually, I'm so enthusiastic about it because the last 3 weeks, especially, I took a lot of time to write this paper. And if you look around in my room, it's a little messy. You see on the floor, I have all around dozens of books spread all over. Here's lots of scientific papers. I can just choose one, not randomly, but it's on the top because I was just reading it. It's called Double Entanglement and Quantum Cryptography. Amazing paper. And I tried to connect it to all the other papers and find a lot of fundamental research on which our view on the things of a united human being, a unified, a whole human being can be based. So this bioenergetic field we are aiming at, because if we can make a change there, if we can balance it, if we qualitatively can improve something on this level, it works in all directions. This is what we believe. So for us, it's the most effective way to approach. So the bioenergetic field is not one, it's complex. It's so complex like a symphony. I would like to take this metaphor because it directly relates to frequencies. If you listen to a symphony, it's not about listening to a specific note played by some guy in the back with a oboe, or someone in the front with a violin, or and you cannot understand a symphony in this way. Actually, the only way to understand the symphony is not to try to understand it, but just listen to it and get caught by it, and let your emotions be going with the music, and not just your emotions, your spirit. It's an experience of your whole being. Music is so important. Therefore, people take the troubles to go to concert halls to experience it live, because you experience the emotions of the people around you, but also of the musicians. And if the orchestra is a coherent harmonic unity, this is what the conductor has to do. Conductor is so important. You may think, okay, they can play alone. Why do we need Leonard Bernstein? Why do we need Herbert Karajan or Thielemann or anyone else? Conductor is so important because by his spirit, by his feel of rhythm, by his absorbing the piece at one piece without a temporal timeline, the whole orchestra of 50 people also can become one. Staying each individual, focusing on each note has to be precise, and still it has to be whole. So it's an immense contrast of precision and wholeness. And this contrast of precision, which is a local quality, and the wholeness of the musical sound which you experience, it's actually complementary quality. And whenever you find this kind of complementary qualities between a local and a global effect, you get quantum entanglements. That's one of the rules of generalized quantum theory, which I'm also working on now. So it's all about wholeness and individual precision. So the bioenergetic field is a symphony of correlations like this. And therefore, if we come with a Healy, with our intention to influence and balance the bioenergetic field, we are not coming with one frequency. Say, okay, I know the frequency of a certain discomfort and use this frequency. It doesn't work like this. Or we say, okay, it takes 20 frequency for a certain person or a certain problem. It doesn't work like this. It's in the moment. It happens in the moment. So Healy happens in the moment. It uses its technology and the sensor which is built in to actualize the frequencies in this moment and create a sequence of 500 with 1,000 and 500 to 400 to 1,000 frequencies for each treatment. Depends on how long it is. And in this way, it creates a symphony of frequency. It's not just one frequency to the other, but each frequency in such a sequence relates to all the other frequencies in the sequence. So they all relate to each other. Sometimes frequencies have to repeat a few times. Sometimes the frequency has to go longer. And the frequency is not just a frequency, but a frequency comes along with all its harmonics. Means like if you apply 40 hertz, you have 80 hertz, you have 160, 320 hertz, it goes up. So there's an amazing effect of the frequencies if you apply it to the body, but it's also applied directly to the bioenergetic field. So this is what it is about if you use Healy. And I would like to connect it with some of the books which are lying around me, and I'm hesitating to put them back in the shelf. I have to put them back in my library outside because here's no space. It's full of books already. But there's one amazing book I have studied in the last weeks again and again. It's called Quantum Physics of Consciousness. And it's not published by some crazy, esoteric-minded physicist who ended up at a yogi in the Himalaya mountains, but it's published by no one else than Sir Roger Penrose. And Sir Roger Penrose is one of the most serious and most important recognized theoretical physicists, mathematicians, and cosmologists in this world. He did major works on the expansion of the universe and the Big Bang, all the mathematics for the black holes. He was something like the guide of Stephen Hawking when he studied and his lifelong, actually. Amazing person who has a long life of experience in research, publishing this book, The Quantum Physics of Consciousness. Yes, this is my belief. You can only understand what consciousness is and how it relates to the body and to the unconscious if you understand the quantum effects between all of them. And that's where this is where we're aiming at with frequency of Healy. There's another book also edited and published by Roger Penrose, which has an even more challenging title. It's called, probably you see it vice versa, but it's called Consciousness Became the Universe. It's a collection of more than 50 papers from very, very renowned scientists like Roger Penrose, Harvard professor of quantum physics Henry Stapp, and Stuart Hameroff, and I don't know who else. Long list. And that's an amazing title, isn't it? Consciousness became the universe. It's not that consciousness was developed as the epiphenomenon when the universe finally created genes and cells and the living organism, which at one point became conscious. But their claim is it is the very consciousness itself which transformed into the universe. Consciousness became the universe. And that's not enough. The same authors published another big volume with more research, consciousness and the universe. So that's the idea. So what does it mean? It means consciousness becomes the universe. Okay, I can say also, what am I? Consciousness became me in my wholeness. I can say consciousness became the Healy. So if you see the Healy in this background, you see, my God, there's much more behind. It's not just some plastic enclosure and some electronic circuits with it, with an app. No, the same consciousness which became the universe became the Healy. This sounds very esoteric, and probably it is, and it's far away from the science we're having now. It's maybe even still far away from the emerging science. But if Henry Stepp is a contributor here, but if Roger Penrose publishes a book, Consciousness Became the Universe, okay, something must be behind. He got his Sir from the Queen for his lifelong contributions to science. And I think this is a broader view which we need to have if we want to understand why sequences and how sequences, I mean frequencies, sequences of frequencies, how symphonies as sequences of frequencies can actually affect our bioenergetic system. So I hope this gave you a little broader idea of what I'm thinking of quite now, and but don't put it but don't turn it into any marketing material. I think we have to explain it in a little more digestible way for the public.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Actually, I have one last question. Did you choose the butterfly shirt for us today out of a special reason?
Yeah, of course.
Because the butterflies as a symbol of quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and so forth.
You know, of course, there is this metaphor about the butterfly swinging his wings once, maybe, and it actually changes the cosmological order of the universe to some degree. This is a metaphor which is used actually in science or in popular science for how everything is really connected, and how actually the universe is a dance of butterflies, each of them, which each movement influencing all the others. So I think I like this t-shirt so much that I actually bought 2 of them. So if I dress it 2 days, doesn't mean I dress the same t-shirt, but I have it twice. And yeah, I really like it because it's lively, and it presents this balance of chaos and order where actually life is situated. Life is not a structure, but it's this very subtle balance of order and chaos. And this is actually the balance of the bioenergetic field. So
everybody loved your shirt. So congratulations on your shirt, because everybody was
complaining. Some comments on my shirt in the chat? Or yes, okay, thank you very much. Okay, I appreciate it.
You, Marcus, for being here with us again today. It's always a pleasure to have you with us, and everybody loves what you talk about. So great, thank you very much. But